on. Oh no, what happened?
Let me know when it happens. I'm just looking at my Facebook page to see if I see when it happens.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I see it. Perfect. All right, and we are live. Just looking at my Facebook page. Okay, I'm turning that off. All right, welcome. Welcome, beautiful sisters and Nicole, into our space here, into the Alchemical Goddess Sanctuary space for all women. And tonight we are inspired to come in here and to have this sacred conversation about diversity and inclusivity, which was sparked a few days ago by Nicole, your beautiful live video stream that you did in your group. And that truly just grabbed onto my heart. And I wanted to share your insight, and I wanted to bring that awareness and education to my soul, as well as everyone who gets to hear this sacred conversation. So your beautiful mantra, I create and honor safe spaces for all, resonated within my heart so much, within my whole body, within my whole soul. And it was an incredible inspiration for me. And I just wanted to share. So I want to welcome you and introduce you. This beautiful sister, Nicole, is my temple body sister. We together are in this amazing, beautiful school of temple body arts. And this is a divine feminine leadership school. And so I feel as divine feminine leaders, we are here to take a stand for all women. And we're here to bring the awareness and bring the education and bring the expansion of our heart, our soul, our gifts and desires into this world. And Nicole, she who is radiant, magnetic, vibrant, inspiring goddess, divine feminine leader that you are. And I'm just so honored and so grateful to have you here on this call, on this live. So welcome, sister.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Anya, for opening up the space to me, and thank you, fellow sisters, for watching either live now or watching later. Thank you for your energy and your presence as we go into this conversation.
Yeah, thank you. I am just want to say I'm so deeply honored, humbled, and also empowered. For some time, I felt humility and humbleness was something that was required for me. And realizing that with that also comes an incredible empowerment to be able to share what we have inside, to share what we feel in our hearts, to share this sacred conversation. I'm so honored to be here in your presence, to be by your side, to be learning from you, to be guided by you, and just to see how we can understand more the diversity and the issues around social justice. With social justice, there's so many issues around it. And today specifically, we are talking about race. And we're going to touch up a little bit because this is such a huge, grand topic that I invite you and I welcome you to dive deep and to open your heart and to not be afraid to be maybe uncomfortable or to look deep inside within our inner ignorance or us unknowing or spiritually bypassing something that's right here in front of us and has been for generations. And so I want to ask, how can we be less ignorant and passive? And how can we be more inclusive and aware? How can I, as a white spiritual woman, honor fully all my sisters of color? So I'm here to sit and to hold space for us, for this conversation, for the divine to speak through us, through our voices, through you, Nicole, and to express. And I want to ask you, can you please share with us where in your life, at some point you have had a personal experience around feeling the diversity, around feeling the difference, around how it has affected you in your life so far?
Well, it's affected. I mean, it's something that I have walked with, since birth, really, because when you walk through this world as a person of color, there is an automatic filter that in a lot of spaces we have to dismantle. And it's unfortunate that, there is that filter, unfortunately, to that is like, it's like an old story, it's a story of passive judgment, of centuries of being fed a certain story or fed a certain message. So, excuse me, when let's say you have people of color coming into a space, and sometimes there will be that story, So let's say, for example, people of color in corporate business, right? There is this filter or this mask of having to look a certain way to be accepted by other peers. You can't look, having braids or having dreadlocks in certain spaces is still considered a negative thing, right? So having to unmask and deconstruct that filter, right? That's in a corporate setting. Now, within, I guess you asked me in everyday life, I feel that I've always had to do more to prove my worth. I've had to do more to prove that, I can do something well. I've always had to work harder. I've always had to express myself in certain ways to prove that, I actually know what I'm talking about. Or, this person has the education and background to speak well. Oh, this person speaks well. Wow, Oh, you're not like X, Y, and Z, which again, it's an old story, because you know, to lump everybody together in certain cultural groups to say, oh, they're all like this and they're all like that, is a disservice and a dishonoring to the cultural mosaic of everyone. You know, unfortunately, we're in this time where you have certain cultural groups that are being discriminated against, you know, Middle Eastern people, Chinese, Asian people, you know, I mean, it's not just brown skinned people. It's, you know, it's globally. And so, and for different reasons and stories, none of them are acceptable. But this is where we're at right now. So being able to dismantle what is being put in the media and what is putting those stories, when there's a narrative, when there's a dangerous narrative of one type of story to describe a group of people, then that really puts a disservice on that group of people, because it may be true for like 5, but it's not true for the 5 million, right, that are just trying to live and, you know, put bread on the table and work hard for their families, and to love on their relationships and do good for humanity, and to have that filter that they have to comb away unnecessarily is frustrating, you know. And when other people don't have to do that, and they get ahead more, or they get some more support more, you know, it could, you know, like some people that just don't understand why we're in this time, why we're still talking about this, because it's been put in front of our faces time and time again, where an injustice or a situation will happen, and it's just like, well, there's no other reason. It's because of this, and it's because of the old story and the old programming of oppression and false sense an overarching sense of entitlement, and thinking that one person is better than the other, you know. So like you said, it is very complex, but so those are the things, I mean, in my life, and it has happened passively, and it has also happened directly, no bullshit about it, in my face, you know. And I've always been taught by my parents to just, like, you know, been educated on, this is some of the things I will have to face, and not be ignorant about it, but also to not give in to the anger and the polarization of looking at people and be just like, I'm not going to deal with you, kind of thing. I don't allow that to interfere in the relationships that I build and the spaces that I go into. But there is still, unfortunately, there is work to be done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. Can you share a little bit on how can we bring awareness of inclusivity and diversity? How can we educate ourselves?
It's having these conversations. It's having these conversations, and also being open to the experiences, to really hear the experiences of other cultures, and to really feel that compassion for people like it's your family, right? A lot of times we don't really care until it's something that really affects us personally, or it happens to somebody we love, then we really take action, right? Look at how many cancer societies are out there, and look at how big the runs are for charities. It's because, and they run and they bike and they do these things because somebody in their family or somebody close to them was affected by X, Y, and Z. So they made it personal to raise that money, to raise that awareness, and so forth and so on. Look at the amount of gun violence that is out there. But it's those who have been personally affected or so and so, or just feel really called to take that step in that action, in that justice, to advocate and speak up. It's when it becomes personal. So I believe we got to make it personal, you know, because if somebody close to us in our family, our friends and family, was discriminated or shamed, or, you know, for a hateful reason, an ignorant reason, you would want to march up and be like, okay, this is unacceptable. We're going to do something about it. Awesome, you know. So these issues, we need to take a personal charge, a personal advocation, and make it so that it's like, you know, as we say, we're all connected, right? What happens halfway across the world is still we are still connected to what's happening, you know, here. So the first step is really opening up to these conversations and really listening and hearing, but also being in action, and action with our voice, action with how we really open up these dialogues to really hear what the experience is, and to really be in people's corner when, you know, they're on the front lines, either signing a petition or speaking out to a city councilor, or, you know, speaking out to your fellow community, right? When you hear somebody say a negative narrative, it's not so much about bullying and shaming them, but it's also in saying, you know what, this isn't right, or that let's have a conversation about this. If they're open, some people are not open to that, but a large part of the population are. So really having those open conversations is the first step. Also, I suppose the second step is to really educate yourself. You know, it's like when we learn a language, right? And we go and travel, right? If you're gonna go to France, you know, and you speak English, it is not their job to cater to you because you speak English, right? You're coming into a French-speaking country, you need to learn their language, right? You need to learn, you know, how you come into their space. You can't be entitled to say, well, I don't speak the language, help me. Well, if you come in there with like, okay, let's say you took a course, or you got your book, and you try to speak the language, well, okay, they're gonna help you out. They say, okay, we see you struggling, come on, I'll help you, yeah, right? It's that way, awesome. There's more appreciation for you taking the initiative to do the work, to understand the culture, right? As opposed to coming in and saying, I don't know anything. Like, could you just tell me where it is? Do you speak English? Like, is there somebody who speaks English? Like, because I don't know what's going on. They're not gonna help you, right? And there's a brilliant, there is a real, Chelsea Handler, which is, you know, you can love her, like her or not like her. She has a really a good documentary where I think it's called Chelsea Does Privilege, I think, and it's on Netflix. and she addresses this issue. Here she is, a successful white woman with privilege, and she is trying to take initiative and understand this narrative of understanding her privilege, and but also be a part of the advocation and the voice and a voice, you know, to also bring, you know, drive the conversation within her circle and within other people, you know. And that's and really that is what that is part of what we need to do, right? If we don't understand, you need to do your homework, right? Read the books, talk to people, go to seminars, go and to places, you know, go to gatherings, you know, that is outside of your culture. You know, every city has so many multicultural events, right? The large population of those cultural events are the people that are, let's say it's a Filipino Appreciation Day or whatever, cultural day. You'll see a large population of the Filipino population there because they are celebrating their heritage. And you'll see 10 to 20% of people outside of that culture coming to learn, you know? Now, wouldn't it be nice when those cultural events happen that it's not just that cultural group, but it's all a mosaic of people coming in to learn not just the food and the music, which is a tendency we all do, that a large amount of us do. We experience the food, we experience the music, and they're like, oh, this is nice, this is fun, this is exotic. You're there as a spectator, instead of, let me go and talk to somebody. Let me go understand a little bit more about this culture. Let me understand the people. That's why traveling is such the best antidote to ignorance, right? Because once you're in other people's environments and once you're in other people's culture, you are immersed in that culture, right? And you get to see that, you know, we all live by the same principles. We all want to love and be loved. We all want to have we love and nourish our families and our communities. We all want respect, right? And we all want to have a comfortable and a good life, right? We all do, no matter who you talk to. And none of us want to go through injustices, but unfortunately, it happens. So being able to go into those spaces with, you know, respect and honor, realize, okay, this is not your culture, but you would like to, you know, learn and really get an understanding. It's not going to happen overnight, but the more that we immerse ourselves into other cultural spaces and talk to people and learn from one another, not so much as like, oh, well, I have a friend who's this, I know everything. No, you don't. Because, I mean, your background is Russian, correct? Okay, yes. So here I am. I know a little, but not a lot. I am not going to pretend to say, just because I know a few Russian friends, that I know it all. I'm still gonna ask and say, you know, I've heard about this. Is this true? Or what is this experience like? Or, you know, I'm going in as as a student of your cultural experience, as one of going in from compassion and empathy and an open mind, right? And less of the judgments or the narrative that is put out there, you know, about Russian people, and more I'm looking at Anya. I'm seeing her. I'm seeing her essence. I'm seeing her flavor. I'm seeing her beautiful energy. And I am having a conversation with Anya. Anya does not represent the whole, how many billions of people out in Russia. Anya represents her and her experience of her culture. And that is what I'm going to connect to, right?
Yeah.
So really, really just being able to do that, and also honoring all shades, right? There's to be able to say, okay, you know, I see you, but I see you, not I don't see color. Because when you say I don't see color, that is a disservice, and this is a dishonoring to the person that is in front of you, right? Because you all of a sudden you just take away that person's experience. You take away their culture and you try to homogenize them into this mosaic of everybody. It wouldn't be a mosaic anymore. It would just be gray.
Right.
You know, and that's really just it's dishonoring. It's almost like it's like a passive slap in the face. It's like, I don't see it. I don't see color. I just see a beautiful person in front of me. Well, this beautiful person is a brown-skinned person. You can't negate that, right? Or, you know, a slightly tanned or slightly less tanned or so like dark, you know, everybody, you have to see to recognize the whole person.
Thank you. Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So I think what conscious words can we use, or what is inappropriate to say, or how can we approach a woman of color in the spiritual space, and how can we show her that we honor her, that we honor her pain or her anger, that we can sit with her and support her and be by her side? What are some things that you can tell us that are conscious or inappropriate? Like,
I think it's just an acknowledgement. It's an acknowledgement and an open invitation, right? You know, everybody is going to feel their level of comfort in different spaces. There are a lot of spaces that are opening up just for women of color, because that's where we feel comfortable, right? As in a lot, and there are lots of spaces where we can just be maybe one or two people in the room. And that's really that's really no fault of anyone's. It's just the way it's kind of designed. And, you know, and it can be of who can afford it, right? Also just, you know, that relatability of whoever's leading, and being able to be like, oh, I vibe with this person. Awesome, I'm going here, right? There is, you know, to address, you know, like women, period, whether it's women of color, whether it's trans, bi, gay, or, you know, non-binary. You know, you have your pronouns, she, they, her, us, you know, and it's really just, you don't really know until you talk to the person, right? I refer myself as a brown skin girl, a woman, sorry, just because I've always had an issue with being called black. I'm like, my skin is brown, you know? And as a kid, I would look on both sides of my hands and be like, okay, well, this is brown and this is white. So I'm like, well, maybe I'm both, you know? But quickly I was, you know, you know, being told, no, you're not, you know? But I understand where the term black comes from. If you look at pictures of African people being shipped off in the ships, which is a very sobering picture when you look at that. It makes me cry every time. The skin is dark, dark, dark. It is black, right? So I understand where the term Black people comes from, but as a whole, you see all shades, right?
Yes.
So we are people of color or brown skin. You know, sometimes brown skin is referred to people from India or you know, the Middle East. You know, Filipino people
South
are mixed.
America.
South America, you know, they're mixed with different. Their fabric of DNA is mixed with so many, right? So it really depends on the person that you talk to, right? Because, you know, like I talked to a non-binary person who does not subscribe to he or she gender, but she is physically, but her physical body is feminine, but she does not identify with either or. So that person prefers to be called they, right? Or them, right? Or you just call that person by their name, right? So it really depends on the person. For myself, I, you know, in social contexts, people say Black. I take it with a grain of salt because that is the mainstream narrative. But when I consciously address myself, I will say I'm a brown-skinned person. As because my skin is brown, and I just adopt that common sense. My background is from the Caribbean, right? I am mixed with the Caribbean roots, and I am mixed with European, English and Dutch, and I'm sure there's some other stuff that Ancestry or DNA or whatever them things will maybe figure out for me later on. But that's what I know of my background, right? So to address people, it is a personal preference, and you only know that by asking them, you know.
So you would say it's appropriate to have this conversation and to ask a woman of color how she prefers to be known by or called by?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you know, and yeah, some people will be like, will be like, oh wow, thank you for acknowledging that, and some people won't care. You know, it is what it is. But it's being also respectful of that. That's, you know, that is it's nice to have. It's nice to be acknowledged. That, you know, it's not that, you know, as women there is the separation, or the separation of our experiences is thin, right? But just to be welcomed into the room, welcomed into the space, wherever people are from and where their experiences, just to acknowledge that, you know, this is an open space. This is a welcoming space for all, for gender, sexuality, cultural background, whatever. We welcome you all, you know, and that people around in that space, like the mask and the filter and the judgments, all of that stripped away, and we can just be in a space, woman to woman, you know, having whatever experience in a gathering, right?
Right.
Yeah,
I'm feeling that too. Thank you. I feel we as women, not necessarily feminine leaders or teachers, as women in our communities, we have the responsibility to do that inner work, to get to acknowledge those parts of ourselves that are ignorant, that maybe are conditioned and programmed by this world, and that need to be deconstructed and completely brought down to that inner understanding of everything that you just said, to be all encompassing compassion and love and inclusive to all, and to not have that separation in our minds. And I truly believe that we must first bring that awareness to ourselves, to our own inner landscape, before we can take it out into our communities. And if we don't do that inner work, inner deconstructive work, and understanding this deep pain and the deep wounds of women of color, then our communities won't understand, or the circle around us won't understand. And it's up to us to truly shine that light into all these shadowy places, and in order to bring it into the world. So yeah, thank you for sharing. I just want to touch up on a couple of things again. How can we be that divine love of inclusivity? How can we truly shift the mindset of programming that's just embedded deeply through generations? For me, growing up and until I came to America, I personally, I have not seen a single colored skinned person until I came to the United States. I was 20 years old. And even though I feel that I didn't witness and I didn't have the conditioning around this, I deeply feel the pain and I deeply feel the wounds, and I honor. But I also had to deconstruct my innocence. When we are innocent and we think, oh, I love everyone, I'm light and I'm love and I love everyone. And I had to deconstruct that and really come to terms that we need to educate ourselves, and we need to pay the women of color, and we need to learn from them, and we need them to educate us, the white privileged women of this world, because we have the voice that we can speak about this and bring more light. And to the spirituality here is truly to wipe off the white supremacy, and to bring that conscious, divine, all-encompassing love to all, and to create scholarships for women of color, and to invite them into our circles, and when doing our summits or interviews, to make sure we go out of our ways to include everyone. You know, I had an experience a few years ago where I witnessed a summit shut down because there was no women of color. There was one Indian and one maybe Hispanic person and 20 other white women. And it created an incredible awareness for me in my life, as well as all the other ones that were involved. And that's where I knew there was more to this. So to truly honor all, and to honor the actual truth in front. And yeah, so thank you so much.
Yeah, to honor, exactly, recognition, the recognition of, practices, and to, representation, and to hear the widescape of voices is really important, because again, it comes down to hearing the same narrative, right? If you hear the same narrative, you are not getting the full spectrum of the conversation from all angles. and also the representation and recognition. So, for example, I think I was listening to Sonia Fisk, and she was just like, I'm like, yes, I love this woman. But she was talking about just how, especially in the spiritual communities, there are some things that are not used in its proper context, and not giving homage or recognition to certain cultural groups. Like, for instance, using the word tribe, right? Mm-hmm. That word is very sacred to actual tribes, that they're tribes in indigenous communities, whether you're in Africa, Australia, the United States, Canada, in the Caribbean, wherever, right? The first peoples of whatever culture, they have the tribes, right? So for us to adopt that word, as to represent, oh, this is my gathering, this is my tribe, that is a misrepresentation of what that word means. Because a tribe is a sacred group of people where, you have the leaders of that tribe, and everybody has their place within, and does their rituals and ceremonies and things like that within the indigenous tribes. So really honoring that, when we take sage, how are we using it, and are we using it properly? Right? And are we talking about where it comes from? Okay. So, there was something else that was coming to me. When we use herbs and things from the land, and you doing certain ceremonies and rituals, being to speak to where exactly do these rituals, where these ceremonies, the people, where it comes from, right? So the true background, the cultural background lives on. It keeps flourishing, and so we understand the roots of where these things come from, right? Yoga is hugely misunderstood. Because for a good large portion, it's been put out there as this Mecca wellness way of life, direct from India, and India is the Mecca. And that's untrue. There are roots of yoga from Egypt, from the African people, before that space was called Egypt, right? Meditations, those spiritualities, there are roots of that in Egypt, but that is largely not talked about. We talk about it from India. Now, no disrespect from India's culture, because yes, they have their roots in their spirituality, and we practice this within Temple Body Arts about the different goddesses and things like that, right? That are steeped within the Indian culture and spirituality. That's all well and good, but what I'm saying is that a large portion of what is put out there is exclusively only to India, and not recognizing the other roots of yoga and meditation and all that. And it also comes from Egypt, right? So really, when we are out there practicing these ceremonies and rituals, cacao is another one. We use cacao a lot in ceremonies, but are we really talking about where cacao comes from? Why are we using it? Are we using, and are we mixing it and preparing it the way that it should be in a ceremonial space, right? And honoring and talking about where it comes from, right? So the recognition, right, is being able to properly recognize where these things from, right? These things that we practice in the wellness space. So when we have these conferences and we have these summits and all these things, we're conscious. It's not like cherry picking, like I gotta have a person of, I gotta have an African American here. I gotta have an Indian here. I gotta have an indigenous here. I gotta have this. Because then you're going into another territory where you are segregating. We can't have this, you know, we can't have 50 white voices because people are going to complain. We need to have more of X, Y, and Z. It's not about that. It's really about just being conscious of the experience and the stories, not the stories, the experiences. So the more global we can become, the more we understand in the experiences. So it's really an awareness, right? We come back to how do we do this, right? And it is the awareness, and it is having the conversation. It is being conscious of, okay, if I'm doing an event, I really want to include X, Y, and Z voices. I really want to make sure I want to have, if I have a specific topic, I want to have the right representation to speak on this topic. If you're going to talk about African, I don't know, ritual, and you have somebody that is Caucasian from Australia talking about it, well, then there's going to be a disconnect, right? They may have, okay, they traveled there and all that, that's great, but still, you want to have the proper representation, right? It doesn't negate a person's experiences, but if you have somebody talking about Russian culture, you want a Russian talking about it.
I get triggered. I get triggered.
You know, it's the same thing. So really, really just allowing the space to open up the space to say, you know what, I want to make sure I represent properly, right? Is really where we get to, the conversations is the gateway to the experiences, to understanding, you know. So, and it can be as simple as when you write a description of an event, saying that this is an all-inclusive space, you know.
Thank you.
And who will show up, right? But you've opened the door to say, you know what, I open the space to all.
Thank you. It's definitely up to all of us to create those safe, all-inclusive spaces for all, that where nobody is left behind and nobody has to feel left behind. Thank you, Nicole. I wanted to ask if you would share with us a special gift, maybe a guidance, a meditation, something to get us deep into our souls.
Sure.
Whatever way.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, we can definitely take 5 minutes to just drop in. So, so however you are in this experience right now, if you're lying down or sitting up, I just invite you to close your eyes. And where it feels comfortable for you, whether you want to place 2 hands on your heart or 2 hands on your womb space, or 1 hand over your heart and 1 on your womb space. Just feel into your body, first of all, and give gratitude for your physical body, Give gratitude for your spiritual body. Give gratitude for your presence and your health and your consciousness and your open mind and your open heart as we really seep into this conversation. This conversation is not one to be solved in an hour. It is a constant practice. It is a practice of understanding. It is a practice of empathy. It is a practice of deep listening. Through small actions, through expression of our voices, we can shift the world. And to allow the dissolve of the overwhelming negative narratives and come into a space of seeing the goodness in human beings. We are human beings. Each one of us are individually human beings. Yes, there may be a few unfortunate bad apples out there, but nobody grew up to be in a negative context. Somewhere around the line, there was an absence of nurturing and love. So as we are in this space of nurturing and loving ourselves and nurturing and loving our families, that energy will vibrate into our communities, into our sacred spaces. Take a deep inhale through the depths of your womb space, all the way up through your lungs, in your throat, breathing all of that in, and take a big exhale. Another inhale, all the way through from the depths of your feet, through your muscles of your legs, your hips, your womb, your lungs, your throat, filling your whole body. Inhale and exhale. One more time, taking the energy, feeling the energy of Mother Earth, drawing from Mother Earth into your feet, the pads of your feet, into the muscles of your calves, your thighs, your hips, your bones, your DNA, your blood vessels, all the way up through your body, through your heart, into your throat, out through your mouth. Exhale. And just visualize standing in a circle. This circle is a grand circle. And the person next to you is smiling at you. The other person on the other side of you is smiling at you. And your hearts are beaming your favorite color. And that energy from your heart is extending to the next person beside you, and the next person, and the next person, and the next person, until that full circle is connected by your hearts. connected to the highest space of love, the highest vibration. And as you are connected, you see each other. You recognize and you honor where they have come from. This is not just a person with exotic hair or colorful clothes or a really soft skin. You see beyond their physical shell. You see them as they are, but you also go deeper into that person. And you honor them in their space as they are. Taking a deep breath. Realizing that not everybody is going to feel your openness, but recognizing and appreciating and giving respect to the people around you. And being an open channel for goodness and light. And when people are ready, the conversations will flourish. It's not about forcing. It's not about, well, I'm doing the work, why aren't they showing up? It's just opening the door for the conversation, for the experience, and for the allowing of the education and knowledge of those around you with compassion, dignity, and love. Deep breath in. And if it feels good, make a sound and say, ah. Seeing that big circle. That circle is in your communities. That circle is in your city. That circle is in your continent, your country, and around the world. While we're in a space where touch is challenging, we can still energetically feel each other. And to close, we are going to say Ashe. Ashe is another word for blessings. Taking a deep inhale, and we're going to say it 3 times. Ashe,
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 Ashe.
Ashe.
And so it is, sisters.
And so it is. And so it is. And so it is.
Mm-hmm.
How beautiful. How divine. How sacred. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you. Feeling peaceful already.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you. Wow. Can you tell us, before we say goodbye, can you tell us where you can be found and what are your offerings right now?
So you can find me. My business is called The Goddess Moves. You can find me on my website, www.thegoddessmoves.space. And my handle on all social media platforms is The Goddess Moves. And I can be found there. And I do have a private sisterhood Facebook group where I pop in I pop in almost every day now with a mantra or reflection or inspiration. And my offerings at the moment, I do offer channeled goddess readings for 1 hour if you want to get in deeper into whatever it is that you want to deeply receive guidance on. And I also offer one-on-one coaching to just elevate the presence of your being and your life and really get into the root of whatever it is that unearth those old stories and patterns and really shift and ignite this divine goddess being. So every step and vibration we walk in this just
yes,
incredible knowing and reverence. And as that happens from the depths of our womb space, it transforms and it alchemizes everything. Everything. It takes time, but it does. It's amazing. I go on and on and on. But yes. So yeah, that's what I do in my one-on-ones, and then I have live workshops and retreats. So that is
amazing. Thank you so much. So I think the final quest for your soul is, what change do you sisters see in your life in this moment, and how is your soul's work supporting that change for yourself and for others? Thank you, and always remember who you are, divine magic. Thank you. Blessings.
Blessings, sisters. Thank you so much for the sacred conversation, Anya. Much love.
Thank you, Nicole. Much love.